Okay, there's a gentleman here who's had his hand up.
Also, compare doctor-student from Taiwan. First, we know Condoleezza Rice and the Bush administration destroyed intelligence and made problematic decisions. But on the other hand, some other people may say, while Carter and Obama administration, they care more about human rights, but they are also weak on security or strategic issues. So I wonder from the perspectives of the administration, the Congress, and the people, how to prevent these two extreme situations. Then, do you have any expectation for the academic trained people, I mean, for students of master or PhD in our field, when they are on the position of policy-making process from other people? Thank you.
The Obama administration, one of his decent things was he had this review of Afghanistan. They took 5 weeks, and he actually got Biden to raise this question about what the hell does escalating in Afghanistan have to do with preventing danger to the U.S. from Al-Qaeda. We have a war complex, which you show a little bit in the film, Blackwater, which has produced a war budget. I often ask people questions about this, which is 3 times as large as the Cold War budget when they opposed the Soviet Union. 3 times as large. It's paying all that money to Blackwater, which is 70% of the troops in Afghanistan under Barack Obama. Today, the U.S. is waging aggression in, let's see, Somalia, Pakistan, and Yemen. They're blowing up wedding parties in Yemen with 50 women and children. Why don't you think about somebody blows up your neighbors when you go to the park and your family and how you feel about them? I would say of any PhD who wants to go advise the U.S. government, I would have said it was a great thing to get into the Obama administration, but I'd be real careful. Because Obama has made himself a vicious war president, waging aggression here and there at the behest of the war complex. He has buckled completely, but with regard to being tough, by the way, nothing is emptier than the authoritarianism. It's authoritarianism. The authoritarianism and imperialism of the Republican Party and the racism. And I would say of any PhD with any sense, if I saw what happened with Barack Obama, who is by far the best we're going to get as the head of the empire and the most hopeful. By far. There isn't another person. If you had asked me to imagine before that we're going to have another election, let alone we'd elect a community organizer who actually read some Martin Luther King and speaks rather beautifully and so on and so forth, and often really thinks about things, I would have said, you are out of your mind. Right? The fact that Obama is so weak, I think he could have done better things than this. But I wouldn't say to any PhD student, hey, you want to go work for that? I think probably the best role you could have in life is to join a movement to fight against the mad empire, which, by the way, I can't go into it fully here. I would just say, and if you want to go into it a lot on my blog, frankly, the likelihood that if this is what we're doing under Obama, we're going to destroy ourselves in the world is a hell of a lot greater than you can go into the government and make a difference.
I think it was John Quincy Adams who said that fairly early on, like in the 1820s, that the United States must beware in its foreign adventures of going out into the world and looking for monsters. And I think that that's similar to the quote that you kind of vaguely ascribed to St. Augustine. I think it's actually from Nietzsche in Beyond Good and Evil, in Setz von Gutenbossa, in which he says, when you look into the abyss, you got to be careful lest the abyss enter your soul, roughly translated. If you think you're going to humanize, liberalize, or otherwise enlighten a regime that's engaged in perpetual war, you might accidentally make yourself an accomplice. So be careful which gang you hook up with. Do we have time for Rob, or is that it?
Yeah, we just got a 10 o'clock, and we got to
Okay,
later,
sorry.
so one quick one.
Quick one?
Yeah.
That's what.
We managed to filibuster you this long, Rob. So.
This morning, I happened to be talking to a friend in a coffee shop. And what we were talking about were people who started out as liberal Democrats in the 60s and 70s. Beyond Condoleezza and beyond Clarence Darrow, Thomas, he stayed all right, and who moved to the right. We were talking about people in Denver. We were talking about the history of some of our governors and things like that. And then you see this film, and it just seems to be quite a powerful tendency that has happened over these 30 years where people start somewhere on the political spectrum and wind up more or less in the same place as Condoleezza Rice did. I don't know if that's a question.
Yeah, I think, as with Obama, it's a compelling personal story. And I would second Alan, having been engaged in, for a long time in the fight against racism and for equal justice and rights in this country and elsewhere. The speech that Obama gave in Philadelphia during the campaign was one of the most beautiful, eloquent accounts of how that personal struggle against racism and it affects comes. I thought it was a transformative, transcendent moment. But more interesting to me in the end than how someone rises to power are the kind of ethical and other compromises that they have to make. And especially, not so much what it does to them personally, but what they do and how it affects the rest of us. So again, especially when it's done in our name, that means that what they do is in effect done by us. It's our responsibility ultimately to do so.